Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are every day. People like to welcome you to the show. Today we want to discuss the untimely death of George Floyd, a Houston native from my home city, right? Now we want to talk about a perfect storm. And when we finish this show, you'll understand exactly what I mean by a perfect storm, because this is something that man couldn't do himself. This came straight from the universe, from the Creator, from Allah, from whatever title you give the Most High. His hands are all over this thing, right? And it lined up perfectly to create this perfect storm. Now, out of the ashes of this storm, as we rise out of it like the phoenix, hopefully there needs to be, there should be, and I hope there will be a new and brighter day. But we want to get into it, and we want to line up exactly how this became a perfect storm, how the ancestors are involved in this, how frustration, emotional stress plays a part in this, and dealing with this COVID-19 and the effect that by being isolated for so long and witnessing what took place, the people boiled over and was ready to burst out on the scene to deal with what just took place with George Floyd. I want to read something to you, and it's coming from the New York Times. And this is dealing with David W. Blight, a historian at Yale. Now, he traces, and we're talking about Memorial Day, the holiday Memorial Day, right? And this is on the aspect of the ancestors. He traces the Memorial Day, the holiday, to a series of commemorations that freed black Americans held in the spring of 1865 after Union soldiers, included members of the 21st United States Colored Infantry, liberated the port city of Charleston, South Carolina. Digging through an archive at Howard, Dr. Blight found that the largest of these commemorations took place on May 1st, 1865, at an old race course and jockey club, where hundreds of captive Union prisoners had died of disease and been buried in a mass grave. The black residents exhumed the bodies and gave them proper burials, erected a fence around the cemetery, and built an archway over it with the words, "Martyrs of the Race Course." Some 10,000 black people then staged a procession of mourning, led by thousands of school children carrying roses and singing the Union anthem, "John Brown's Body." Hundreds of black women followed with baskets of flowers, wreaths, and crosses. Black men, included Union infantrymen, also marched. A children's choir sang spirituals and patriotic songs, including the StarSpangled Banner. The war was over. The Memorial Day had been founded by African Americans in a ritual of remembrance and consecration. Dr. Blight wrote, right, now look, the African American origins of the holiday were later suppressed, Dr. Blight found, by white Southerners who reclaimed power after the end of Reconstruction. Now, I just want to show you something. In 1865, May 1st, 1865, we had black people singing patriotic songs, including the Star-Spangled Banner, even though that third verse in the Star-Spangled Banner had references to slaves, derogatory references, right? But it was showing you that even though in the midst of all this racism, third verse in the Star-Spangled Banner had references to slaves, derogatory references, right? But it was showing you that even though in the midst of all this race hate, that black people were still willing to get along. We're still willing to try to love, and in return hope that they would receive that love back. But it never happened, because during Reconstruction they tore all of it up and then tried to hide the fact that black people created and started the Memorial Day holiday. Now, how does this tie into George Floyd's death? George Floyd was killed on Memorial Day, that Monday evening, after the black ancestors created the holiday. So the perfect storm is building now, right? Because whether you know it or not, you carry on the memory within your genetic coding, in your DNA, from your ancestors, right on down the line. We're live at George Floyd's protest march here at Discovery Green in Houston, Texas. And I got Brother Phillip with me, and his shirt says, "Busy making my ancestors proud," which is a powerful statement. Can you explain that for us, brother?
Sometimes a lot of people don't know their history and what all the black people have gone through every day for 400 years.
That's right.
So every day I try to do something to make my people better, make my ancestors proud of me. Hopefully we can all do that.
Now, how can we make our ancestors proud of us in dealing with the symbolic image of a white cop's knee on a black man's neck on the ground, because they witnessed that too, and now 2020 we still seeing it? What can we do?
Nothing change. Keep fighting just like our ancestors did. That's what we gotta do. Keep fighting. We also gotta be positive and bring us all up. Not some of us, reach back, pull us all up, so none of us are put in these positions. We also need to vote. We gotta get this shit right. We gotta get some people out of office and get more people in office who look like us, who represent us. And even if you look out here, there's a mix of people. There's whites, Mexicans. A lot of people have watched a man get suffocated to death very slowly in this world. And that hurt a lot of people's hearts.
That's right.
And so that affected a lot of people. So we just got to keep fighting just like our ancestors did. It's gotten better for us. We ain't nearly dealing with what they dealt with. But we still got a long way to go.
Come on, yes, sir.
And the system is working like it's supposed to.
Okay.
We got to work against this system.
Right.
Because they ain't going to fix it.
Right.
It's doing what it's supposed to do.
That's right. We got to say that's right. That's right.
They not going to fix something. It's working.
That's right. Thanks, and so when people saw that symbolism of the white officer with his knee on his throat, hands in his pocket, applying pressure on George Floyd's windpipe, and stayed there until he was unconscious, that was a symbolism that it broke the psyche. Now, a lot of people say, well, what's the purpose of burning up and destroying it in your neighborhood, in a neighborhood that you live in? Right. Now, during COVID-19 in Minneapolis, you would have to take an account of how many loved ones that had died from the coronavirus. Right. How many children who the sole proprietor, the one who brought in the money, the one who paid the bills, are no longer there, and how many people have to fend for themselves now? The frustration that's mounted on top of that, right? Not only that, where there's not a number of therapists or counsel people that's there to provide counseling, aid to those that might be suffering the mental. You put all of that together, which is creating the perfect storm, right? Then you take into account of how many black men in America, period, that has been harassed, beaten up, falsely accused, evidence planted upon him by officers who's supposed to serve and protect, and when we're taught to respect that badge, not the person that's wearing the badge, but the badge itself. So when you're respecting that badge, sometimes you look the other way when you catch an asshole doing something other than what he should be doing, or i.e. dirtying up the badge. So when you catch an officer dirtying up that badge, sometimes you look the other way and hope that the other officers will intervene and make the situation right and bring justice to a wrong situation. But when you see officers standing around and not honoring that badge and allow this man to keep his knee in a man's neck
I barely touched me like that, dude. I swear.
for 9 minutes until he's unconscious, then you say, fuck it. To hell with that badge and those who wearing the badge, right? So now you implode. The city implodes all over America. Implosion. So when you ask, well, why burn up buildings and riot and loot and tear up stores, and why in Minnesota you would have police precincts being burned to the ground, 3 of them, because when you rebuild it righteously, rebuild it justly, rebuild it with the community in mind that you're going to serve justice out of these precincts, and if you don't, burn them down again. We're burning, like what did Pac say? We might fight amongst each other, but I promise you this, we'll burn this bitch down. You get us pissed? Wasn't lying. That's a fact. You know, in today's time, people are fed up because why? Years of black folks turning the other cheek. Years of black people being the bigger person. Years of black people saying, well, look, you have to love your enemy until your enemy loves you back. And it's getting to a point to where we're not receiving that love back. We're not reciprocating that love. So now it just becomes noise. When people come on television and they say, oh, we all got to get along and learn to love each other. We got to, and it's like, yeah, whatever, we've been there, done that. That don't work. You should have stepped in a long time ago and fixed the problem, fixed the issues, but no, you didn't want to do that. And so this is a result from that. I hate to see what's happening, but you had warners. You had Mr. Farrakhan come out and warn that this day would come if you didn't repent. And I guess people felt as though that the black community wasn't nothing to repent to. People didn't see the value in the black community, and I'm not just talking about in Houston. Matter of fact, here damn near worldwide, we see the racism going on in China, the racism going on in Europe, dealing with melanated people, and folks just had enough. And actually fed up. But the circumstances and the consequences of prior actions leading up till today created this perfect storm. You know, and I just wanted to let people know that the things that you're seeing, they just didn't come out of vacuum. This thing been building up and building up and building up until we had an explosion. You know, because human beings can only take so much. And we'll be right back in just a sec. And stay tuned. World Peak Radio, Everyday People, the movie.
What people like the most about America is hip hop.
She just hit me in the head. Why do I feel like I'm having an out-of-body experience? Who is this God? The creative mind? So I want to put together some shows and concerts and whatnot, so I asked my partner Tay if he'd drop off some cash to low key, man, so we can get this thing rolling.
Take your come on. Hey, don't want you thinking like you mean. Want you thinking like you mean. Hey,
Can't win no
my sheets depressed and beat. I'm about to light about fires.
You're just listening to a commercial for the Everyday People, the movie, which is on YouTube right now. Everyday People, the movie, and check that out as we continue on with our program. And that was Blade, the remix. You can type in Blade, the remix, and check that web series. The episode is going on as we speak.
So now we want to deal with the young people, right? Young people had to see their grandmothers, grandparents come home behind closed doors and talk about the racism that they dealt with in this country. Systematic racism or overtly outright racism. And they hearing. And out of love for their grandparents, they're like, what can I do to fix it? Even though they're at a young age and miles per second without of no power, but that thought which travels 24 billion miles per second went out into the universe. Right? Then they see Rodney King. Then they see Amadou Diallo. Then they see Eric Gardner. They seeing Tamir Rice. They seeing Philandro Castile. They seeing Sandra Bland. And they growing up to this. And then now, recently, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and now George Floyd. And it's like, wow, if things are going to change, young people are saying we have to change it. We have to change this system. We can't leave it up to the colonizer to change the system. We can't leave it up to the elderly to change the system, because they still under the guise of that slave mentality and fear, because they don't want to rock the boat and they don't want no problems. Young people want to create a future for themselves, but they don't want the future that they seen the generation before them live. They want total and complete freedom. They don't want to be stopped, pulled out of their vehicle and laid on the hot concrete in the summertime or on the cold concrete in the wintertime. They don't want to be harassed when they haven't did anything. They tired of the negative images that's coming out in the media. a lot of people are just it's fed up, and it reached its boiling point. So this is mainly a show dealing with the hope that we can get it together for the future. And if we can't get it together for the future, the next incident, things will be burnt to the ground, tore up, stores destroyed, lives destroyed, until one day each city, one by one, will have to rebuild, and rebuild with equality, freedom, and justice in the shaping of the rebuilding. Meaning the potter's wheel. When the potter is controlling that wheel and he's building that pottery, when he's in his mind, he's thinking of how he wants it to come out, the shape of it. But in that, he's doing freedom, justice, and equality is the mindset within the work. If it's a misguided, evil potter, then it'll show in his work. It's an righteous potter who wants to see freedom, justice, and equality, then you can tell it by its works, right? So people are saying, once again, why burn up the police precincts? Why do this? Why do that? Because that was the symbolism where all the racism and the hate, the judgment and the mistreatment was coming from. So that was a sense of freedom. That was a sense of, I got to get this monkey off my back. That was a system of letting the system know that I'm not who you think I am. I am somebody. I love myself, and I will not tolerate anything less than being treated as a human being and also as a citizen of America. So hopefully we can come out of this, hopefully, with a higher level of understanding towards one another. So as I marched in Houston today, I'm looking around, right? And it was just so many different races of people out there marching. And I asked myself, why? Different nationalities and races coming out now dealing with this issue, right? And why so many white people out here marching? You know, what's going on, right? And it hit me. Okay. White people are saying, look, and they saying this to their brethren, white races. Look, they know what's been going on because they got family members that's racist. They know what's actually happening. They know about the privileges that they receive from being white. They understand all of this, right? They understand racism. They understand why. They even know why the white racists, they know why they hate black people. They know the whole nine. But they're saying, look, I want my children to be able to go to college and get an education. I want my children to be able to go to this institution and land a good job. I want my children to grow up without having to fear and look over their over their shoulder due to the fact that you got another group of people that is that fed up and angry that's willing to burn down police precincts, willing to fight to end racism. And so the women are pleading, look, for the future of the children, let's end the racism. White folks is telling white racists, we went too far. We've been privileged. We rode this train too long. It's time to get off. It's been beat to death. It's tattered. It is not serving any purpose anymore. We need to leave it alone, because if we don't, and if they don't, the consequences is too dire for them to deal with. We won't come out of this thing like you did back in the 16, 17, 1800s, early 1900s. Those days are gone, right? And so, hey, we'll keep bringing you information and a perspective on these situations like none other. You know, right here on Verbal Pick Radio. Before I go, though, I'd like to thank A-Tone Productions for putting this thing together and aiding Verbal Pick Radio and Everyday People, the movie, and the success that we're having. I'd like to thank Brother Jamal, Brother Low-Key, Brother Gino, in their knowledge and dealing with the more occult side of what we're dealing with as far as the community and the people. I'd like to thank Sister Pebbles, Snare Smith, and everybody that's on the YouTube page that gives us a thumbs up on the content and things that we're doing, which means a lot. For all of you all that support the products that we have and that supports the projects and the movies between A-Tone Production and myself, appreciate that. But before we go, I'd just like to say, stand up. Don't be afraid. That's the only way you're going to get the desired result that you want. Black people, you got to fight your own fight. And we appreciate the support of other races. And as I stated, it's just like when someone's younger brother getting bullied and the brother keeps stepping in and fighting for him. One day you got to let the younger brother defend himself so he can understand and he can get that respect. And the time has come where we, as a people, have to change this system. Nobody else can do it for us. They can aid, they can support, but the grunt of the work comes from us, and it comes from within. Verbal Pick Radio, we out.